If you believe we will make it, put your hands together and make some noise tonight. You just heard your outstanding Minister of Finance advising us about the finances of Petrotrin and the finances of Trinidad and Tobago. I can tell you tonight that the PNM is a problem solver, and we would make it, and we will make it with the help of Almighty God and all the efforts of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Put your hands together one more time for the Minister of Finance. And I'm sure you would have to keep the applause going as I introduce to you tonight our next speaker. He is always happy because he's always smiling. He is another stalwart of the movement. He has given yeoman service to the party and more so to our country. He has stayed the course and he continues to fight the good fight. Welcome tonight in Marabella to address us, the chairman of the People's National Movement and the Minister of Energy and Energy Industries, the ever-smiling Senator, the Honorable Franklin Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, our General Secretary, Mr. Daniel Duki. I'm always smiling, but with Petrotrin, I really have to force that smile tonight. Political leader of the People's National Movement and Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Dr. Keith Rowley. Our Minister of Finance and Member of Parliament for Diego Martin Northeast, the Honorable Coleman Birch. Other members of the head table, members of Cabinet, members of Parliament. I recognize His Worship the Mayor, Mr. Junior Agrello. Other officers of the movement, members of the executive and members of the Pointe-a-Pierre constituency, our host constituency, other PNM members, well-wishers, activists, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure where to start, but tonight I want to say to you, the people of Pointe-a-Pierre and Marabella, I have come here tonight as your energy minister to have a serious discussion with you. But before I do that, on Friday we will be celebrating 3 years as a government. Let's hear a round of applause for a good government of Dr. Rao. And I rewind that tape for a good reason. Because throw our minds back to September 7, 2015, and check where this country was. We were on the verge of collapse, economic collapse, largely because there were major challenges in the energy sector. There were 5 key issues. One, there was the gas curtailment issue, where demand was greater than supply. Secondly, there were claims against the NGC of over 4.6 billion TT dollars for gas not supplied to the downstreamers. Thirdly, there was no upstream gas sales agreement with the major upstream producers, in particular EOG and BP. Fourthly, and probably more importantly, or most importantly, there had been, from 2014 onwards, a significant decline in energy sector revenue, largely, ladies and gentlemen, because of lucrative concessions that were given by the former administration to the upstream energy companies. And fifthly, of course, which is the theme of tonight's meeting, the challenge at Petrotrin. What did our Prime Minister do? He took a leadership role in this exercise. The first thing that this administration did was the re-establishment of the Standing Committee of Energy, a cabinet committee that was formed under the Manning administration. I was a member of that committee when I was Minister of Works and Transport. That committee met once a month. So important was it to the national economy. Under the Kamala Prasad Bisesa government, that committee met once per year. It met 5 times in 5 years. And they abdicated their responsibilities to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. There's the famous Houston meeting, where Dr. Rowley and Minister Young went to Houston, met with the leaders of BP and EOG, and brokered and signed a gas sales agreement so that we could have been guaranteed the long-term supply of gas from these companies. Together with that, both BP and Shell committed to an investment of over $10 billion over the next 5 years. With regards to the decline in revenue, what did he do? He summoned something called the Spotlight on Energy, where we called this nation, was open to this nation as where the leakage in revenue was taking place, largely from offshore value coming out of LNG. We invited the Oilfield Workers Trade Union to that meeting, expecting support because your government is trying to gain revenue for you. They didn't come. And they're saying they are patriots. Coming out of that meeting, the Prime Minister led a team to London, including myself and Minister Young. We met with the leaders and the president of both BP and Shell, and we said, we have, that was the Prime Minister's exact words, we have shareholders too. And if you want a fair return for your shareholders, I want for mine. Rightfully so, ladies and gentlemen, the oil companies agreed, and we have started negotiations along those lines. And finally, after 2 decades of lying on the back burner, an agreement that was signed by President Chavez and Prime Minister Manning, Dr. Rowley finally brokered a deal with Venezuela for the supply of gas. Tonight, as a line minister with responsibility for energy, I want to publicly thank and congratulate our Prime Minister for his incisive leadership in the energy sector. But tonight, we have come here to talk largely about Petrotrin. But before I delve into Petrotrin, let me say one thing. A personal story. In 1980, I graduated as a geologist out of the University of West Indies, Mona, Jamaica. And I immediately went to work in what was then Trintok, in the Exploration and Production Department based in Clark Road in Penal. From there, I moved to Santa Flora, where I spent most of my time, sometime in Trinma at Point Fortin, and finally to Pointe-à-Pied in my latter days. Ladies and gentlemen, I have spent 20 years of my professional career in this company. Who I am today and what skills I bring to this ministry was largely developed in Petrotrin. And it hurts my heart. And when I say it hurts my heart, I know my heart is so good. So I have to be careful. But it hurts my heart to see where this company has reached. Something went fundamentally wrong. And today, this administration is going to put it right. I'll make one other point. In 1993, with the merger of Trintok, which was acquired from Shell and from Texaco, and from Trintopec, which acquired the Tissot assets, Petrotrin was formed. At that point in time, ladies and gentlemen, and I shouldn't say this, but I'll still say, it was said that we control the commanding heights of the economy. Remember that phrase? The commanding heights of the economy. It felt good. As a young professional in the industry, it felt good to me. But regretfully, ladies and gentlemen, the commanders in the commanding heights did not do a good job. That's the reality. Today, it has fallen on this administration to bring some sanity, to bring some good sense, and to bring some good business practice to, as we said, reinventing Petrotrin. I'll spend the next few minutes to explain two concepts to you, so you could put everything in context. First and foremost, to the national economy. We are a gas-based industry. But to the national economy, even though our oil production is low, oil is still better business than gas. And oil is still better business than gas for three reasons. With gas, there's something called the value chain. And if you're not careful where the value is, right now we're not benefiting from the entire value chain because the value is going offshore. In oil, you don't have that problem. We have a very robust system of taxation for oil. The Minister of Finance just said, first and foremost, coming from the top is royalties, 12.5%. Then there's SPT, which is a windfall profit tax. So anytime oil price goes above $50, the tax kicks in. And then there's petroleum profit tax. The second aspect about oil that is good is that you can't cheat us on oil price, because every single crude traded in this world is referenced against a reference crude. So if Trinidad land crude is WTI minus $6, nobody can fool it. That is the approximate price you can get. With gas, it is different. Gas depends on which markets you go to, etc., etc. And probably more importantly to the economy, in the oil business, there's more jobs and more work for the service sector, because oil wells require servicing more regularly than gas wells. Mr. Enes, you're shaking your head. That's one aspect. The second thing I want to explain is to pick up on Minister Imwood's dialogue. Is the difference between exploration and production and refining and marketing. The business model for exploration and production is simple. You drill for, you produce, and you sell crude oil. There's an operating cost to produce oil. So if, as a company, it is costing you $35 to produce a barrel of oil, and oil is selling at $50, $15 is profit. It is as simple as that. But what happens now if oil goes to $80? Your profit jumps from $15 to $30. That is called a windfall profit. Because you didn't do anything to earn that. You are at the mercy of the oil price. So that is why we have a tax called supplemental petroleum tax. Because the government has a right to take some of that profit from the oil companies, because you didn't work for it. So in the exploration and production business, once your operating cost is at a certain range and you can make a profit, there's always a chance of a windfall profit. The point I'm making, ladies and gentlemen, exploration and production is good business. That is why we are staying into it. Refining and marketing. That is a processing plant. That point of view refinery is a processing plant. It is no different to a methanol plant in Point Lisas or to a urea plant in Point Lisas. Refining is what you call a margins business. So in other words, you have something called a gross margin, which is the price of products minus the price of crude. So if you pay $50 for a barrel of crude, and when you refine it and sell it, you make $60, your gross margin is $10 per barrel. The unique thing about refining is that the margin is almost independent of the price of oil. So if a refinery is operating at a certain margin, it matters not whether oil price is high, medium, or low. It is the margin, which is the efficiency of the refinery. A well-run refinery in the United States has a gross margin of about $8 per barrel. Its operation cost is about $4 per barrel. So on every barrel of crude that is refined in a refinery like that, you make $4. There are refineries in the United States Gulf Coast that is refining 1 million barrels a day. So here you have a company that is making $4 million profit per day. The problem with our refinery is that our net margin, as the Minister of Finance indicated to you, is between minus $2.50 to minus $3.50 per barrel, minus. So for every barrel of crude you refine, irrespective of the price, you're losing between $3.50 to $4.50. Furthermore, you're importing 100,000 barrels per day to lose that, you know. If you was losing it on your own oil alone, that was fine. Not fine, but at least it's still semi-palatable. So you importing oil, using up scarce foreign exchange in this country, which the Minister of Finance has problems to protect, to lose on the 100,000 barrels you are refining, an average of $2.50 to $3.50 per barrel. That is the state of play. And I have explained these concepts to you so that you could understand what I am going to say in my presentation. We are reinventing Petrotrin. When we took office in Petrotrin, we formed a company which was in a terminal state. For the financial year 2015, Minister Imbert indicated it already, they recorded losses of $1 billion, $5 billion in 2016, and a loss of $2.2 billion in 2017. On assumption of office, we requested a presentation from management of the state, or the state of affairs of the company. What we learned was that the company was in a precarious financial state. Cash from operations was negative, and approval was being sought by the government for guarantee of a US $500 million loan facilities to fund its capital program and debt. Ask Mr. Imbert. The debt level was 13.3 billion TT dollars, comprising of short-term debt of TT 5.2 billion and long-term debt of 8.1 billion, which included a famous US 850 million bullet bond payment, which is due in August next year. We passed August already, you know. Management advised that given the present and projected level of cash generation, it would be unable to pay the 850 million bond on maturity, and therefore would have to seek refinancing. They also admitted that the current performance did not provide confidence of the sustainability, and there were key imperatives that must be pursued aggressively if the company's position was to improve. These imperatives included improvement in oil production, higher refinery throughput, higher gross margins, reduction in manpower costs, renegotiation of contracts, and cash injection by the government. Government, recognizing the need for urgent action, appointed a board of directors with a mandate to review the state of affairs of the company. However, ladies and gentlemen, the situation did not improve. The projection for a turnaround was illusionary and without foundation. Indeed, the performance of the company deteriorated significantly. The net result moved from a loss of $1 billion in 2015 to a loss of $4.3 billion in 2016. In 2017, government, concerned about the deteriorating financial position of Petrotrin, appointed a 7-member team led by the then Permanent Secretary, Mr. Selwyn Lashley, popularly known as the Lashley Report. That team, those findings has been aired over and over the last week or so I wouldn't go into the details of it. But I want to just quote from the report, and I quote, "Today, Petrotrin is overburdened with debt, which substantially resulted from poor investment decisions. It is unprofitable, and the outlook is worsening, and the outlook for a worsening of its operation unless there's major capital injection." Ladies and gentlemen, because of that, and in keeping with our commitment to transparency and accountability, as Minister of Energy with responsibility for Petrotrin, I met with Mr. Ansel Roger, President General of the Oilfield Workers Trade Union, and his team on Wednesday, July 19th, and outlined this to him. A follow-up meeting was held on August 8, 2017, to further bring the union up to date. He and the Blue Army, we have a Red Army, eh? But be that as it may, a follow-up meeting was held on August the 8th. The salient points that I highlighted at meeting were as follows. The debt burden, 11.726 billion, US 850 bullet payment, high operating costs, wages and salaries, ladies and gentlemen, I will deal with that a little later on. 53.5% of operating expenses. In an oil company, there's no oil company in the world, I can tell you that, I know the industry, where wages and salary make up 53.5% of your operating costs. Oil and gas is a capital-intensive industry. The lifting cost per barrel was between $39 and $43 per barrel, and the refinery margin was negative. In this case, here was $3.57. And the story goes on and on. By that point in time, after the Lashley report, we accepted the Lashley report in Cabinet. The Lashley report was tabled in Parliament to the Joint Select Committee on Energy Affairs. We have been transparent all along. We weren't hiding anything, you know. Cabinet then appointed a new board of directors to give a clear and specific mandate to identify the problems at Petrotrin and to take steps necessary to make the company sustainable and profitable. That board of directors engaged international consultants with global experience in benchmarking oil companies. McKinsey, Solomon Brothers, these are world-class Fortune 500 companies. We listened, we consulted, and as Minister Imbo told you, the consensus was that there was absolutely no hope that this refinery could stay, and this refinery could be operated in as a profitable business now or forever in the future. So we took a decision to reinvent Petrotrin. Reinventing Petrotrin means that Petrotrin will come out of refining operations for obvious reasons. You are losing and you are hemorrhaging significant money that the Minister of Finance needs, that the Minister of Health needs, that the Minister of Education needs, that the Minister of Labor needs. Money to develop the social infrastructure and the physical infrastructure of Trinidad and Tobago. It cannot be consumed by 2,000 people on behalf of the state when the population of this country is 1.3 million. We say, ladies and gentlemen, that we had no choice in this matter. But let me, before I leave the finances of Petrotrin, let me draw your attention to two issues. They have done many wrong things, and many ill-advised things, but I want to draw another one to you. Mr. Imbud spoke about their finances, how they hide losses and see it was for tax write-off purposes, tax credit. If we want to close down the refinery tomorrow, we can't do it. You know why? Because the company went and pre-sold its products for approximately 2 to 3 months to fund its immediate cash reserves. So whatever, you're in August, but you're selling October products. You ain't make it yet, you know. You buy the crude yet to make it, you know, but you don't sell it and take the money. That is irresponsible management. And then, I just want to drill a little deeper into the salaries and wages bill, because it's a dicey point. Salaries and wages made up 52.8% of operating costs. Operating costs is $4.1 billion a year. Salaries is $2.19 billion. But hear this. There are 3,437 permanent employees. Their wage bill is $1.87 billion per annum. An average wage bill per employee, average, of $45,000 per month. Ministers don't take home $45,000 a month, by the way. There are 1,229 non-permanent employees with an annual wage bill of $320 million. An average salary for casual and temporary, they are called. I give them a nice phrase, non-permanent. They're called in the industry casual and temporary. The average wage bill is $21,000. And here this one, the overtime bill has been constantly, over the last couple of years, averaging $22.7 million per month. And I want to just go off those statistics with 2 real examples for you. Earlier this year, when it became known to me that the overtime was out of whack, I asked 1 month earlier this year to send me for that month the 50 top overtime earners in the company. 50, just 50. Ladies and gentlemen, I got the list. I cannot call names. But there was a carpenter on that list who earned $70,000 a month in overtime. In the refinery, so I don't know if they have wood in the refinery. Refinery is iron. But a carpenter in the refinery had an overtime payment of $70,000 for that. I'll give you another piece of statistics and I will stop that because I'm not bashing the workers, you know. I'm giving you some reality checks. There's an agreement between the union and the company which states that if you awarding a contract for labor under the terms of the union agreement signed by management, you know, because it's an agreement, union and management, that states when you take on a contractor, you have to pay him OWTU Petrotrin rates. What that means, ladies and gentlemen, that if there's a contractor taken on to mow the lawn in Pointe-à-Pied camp, that contractor has to pay his employees through the company OWTU rates for laborers. You know what is OWTU rates for laborers? $77 an hour. $616 per day for a laborer. CPEP workers getting $80 a day, you know. So here you have a system, because the person who is cutting the lawn at Pointe-à-Pied is not a Petrotrin employee. He's a contractor employee who is forced to pay that because of these agreements. And ladies and gentlemen, let me just say one thing again. When unions and management sign these type of agreements, they could go home, laugh, and sleep. But at the end of the day, somebody has to foot that bill. And there will come a time when you have ridiculous agreements like this, that the bill would not be able to be met. And that is when all hell will break loose, as has happened today. That has happened right now with this company. They have been responsible by and large for their own demise, you know. Forget the negativity now. Let's look at the future. A new E&P company. Ladies and gentlemen, Petrotrin sits on 165 million barrels of proven reserves. The bulk of it in Trinma, significant amounts of it on land. Oil prices are high, above $60 for land crude, probably as high as 65, closer to 70. Petrotrin is the only oil company in the world with these high oil prices, doesn't have a single drilling rig in operation. You drill when oil prices are high because you get oil and you make money. There's very limited heavy workovers going on. For those of you who know the industry, they will know what I mean. A new E&P company will reactivate and re-energize all of South Trinidad. Because what the energy sector needs is not Petrotrin, you know. They need a vibrant sector with activity. A new Petrotrin will give them that. We'll be developing Trinma with new technology, with new seismic, with new drilling programs, with new production facilities, with upgraded infrastructure. On land, we will be looking for oil. But to be successful in the exploration production business, you need two things. You need technology in today's world, and you need a cadre of first-class employees. And an exploration and production company's strength, and I am biased here when I say this one, is in the strength of its subsurface team. The subsurface team is the people who find the oil for you. The people who tell you where to drill, what wells to work over, what wells to work on. Geologists, myself and the boss. Geophysicists, reservoir engineers, petroleum engineers, drilling engineers, production engineers. And when we have bright young people in this country, we have been running them through the mills of UTT and UWI for decades. A lot of them cannot find jobs today because the system is not allowing it. This new system will allow them to come into the industry, learn from their mentors, and produce oil for Trinidad and Tobago. There will be major activities in the southwestern peninsula and San Fernando, in Marabella, because Marabella has a lot of fabricating industries and service sector, instrumentation, you name it, we have it. What will happen to the refinery? Sorry. In the first instance, it will be converted to a terminaling and bunkering facility. There's tremendous storage capacity. We used to refine 150,000 barrels of oil. You have to import crude, you have to store finished product. There's a port. So what we will be transforming ourselves into a terminal facility where we will be importing finished products. More than we will use on the local market and re-exporting it to the Caribbean islands. So the only difference between this model and the refinery model is that the refinery wouldn't be producing the fuel. We will be importing the fuel. Because we're importing in bulk, we will get it cheaper and redistributing it to the Caribbean. So we may well make the same amount of money. And now, let me deal with the thorny topic. What will happen to the refinery? I'm quoting from the Prime Minister's address on Sunday. He said the refining asset of Petrotrin can now be put in a separate company for opportunity attention. What is so wrong with that? We wouldn't close down the refinery and leave it to rot. The refinery, as bad as it is, as inefficient as it was, has some value. The value it has to Trinidad is not economic value to us, but it could be economic value to another party, to a third party, somebody with a crude oil supply source that doesn't have the strain to get foreign exchange like us to bring in crude. Somebody will come in with a new business model, with new technology. So what the Prime Minister there said, and rightfully said, is the refining asset of Petrotrin can now be put in a separate company for opportunity attention. He chose his words correctly. And we are willing to discuss with any third party how they want to see the refinery operate. And all those conspiracy theorists, they don't say now, we have a buyer lineup already, and we're going to sell it to the 1%, and all type of foolishness and old talk. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not the time for that. Okay? This is serious times. There are challenges. And on this point, I want to say that no matter what spin I just put on this thing here, I sort of criticize and ridicule Petrotrin's operation. I show the ridiculousness of their cost structure. I articulated a clear and unambiguous reason why we had to go the way we had to go. But at the end of the day, there are still families. There are still children, there are still wives, there are still husbands who will be somewhat negatively affected by this. And I want to tell all those people that the PNM cares and this administration cares about them. And we will do everything in our power to make sure that they have a soft landing. We have already indicated through the Prime Minister's speech on Sunday that we'll have an early retirement program for people over 50, that they will get an enhanced payment and get their full pension. The medical things that have been negotiated already, we will honor it. And for those less than 50, they would have an enhanced package, an attractive package that they can cushion the fall, and then they move on. A lot of them are young, bright professionals and skilled and semi-skilled workers. Opportunities will become available. Do not get despondent. Even a new exploration production company can absorb a lot of people. So while it will only absorb 900 of Petrotrin workers, the spin-off industry there is tremendous. So do not lose hope. We are here to bring some sanity to what has been happening in an obscene way for many, many years. And I think the plan we have put together is a well-thought-out plan. And again, I want to compliment our Prime Minister for his leadership in the Petrotrin. All right. So let me now deal with the politics. Because the PNM is a political party, you know, for those of you who forgot. And let me deal with one lady first. It's not the lady you think I'm going to deal with, I deal with her second. I seen an article here in the paper today. Caroline challenges Khan to a public debate on Petrotrin. She was Minister of Energy under UNC, you know, they did nothing, you know. According to Basde Pandey, she's now head of the corps. Caroline challenges Khan to public debate on Petrotrin. I want to tell Mrs. Sipasad Bechan here tonight that if she wants to debate me, the COP has to win at least one seat and come to the parliament. And I know that they can't do. So she will never get a chance to debate. And then now I will deal with the other one. She had a big press conference this evening. Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, opposition leader and leader of the UNC. I want to tell her tonight that energy is a specialized, highly technical, highly sophisticated business. Even those of us who came from the industry, who knows it, who claim we know it, as I do, on key issues, we still have to seek expert advice. You cannot advise yourself on these matters. As everybody will know, a lawyer, you cannot advise yourself. You have to seek counsel. And on strategic matters of this in the energy sector, we have sought counsel. she has seek no counsel, and she just go in and blah blah her mouth of all kind of plans, uninformed. Her first plan was say, why shut down the refinery? Let's refine Guyanese crude. Ladies and gentlemen, what I have shown here tonight is that the refinery is hopelessly uneconomic as presently configured and with its present cost structure. Whether we refine Nigerian crude, Angolan crude, Venezuelan crude, Russian crude, or Guyanese crude, you will still lose money. There's nothing special about Guyanese crude. And Guyana in its own sense, so you think Guyana will give us the crude? Guyana will be now starting to earn revenue. Guyana has a production sharing contract with Exxon. They are in the cost recovery stage. Most of that production will be Exxon's production. Exxon has its own refinery network internationally. So Guyana's portion of the crude, obviously, as a responsible government to the Guyanese people, they will have to seek fair market value for their crude. So that is a non-starter from the beginning. Then she came up with the idea that Jamaica has a refinery and Jamaica doesn't produce crude. How come Jamaica could have a refinery? Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you some statistics on Jamaica's refinery. Jamaica has a very small refinery that processes 36,000 barrels per day. Our refinery is 150,000 barrels per day. The ownership structure of the Jamaican refinery is Petrojam, 51%, that's the Petroleum Company of Jamaica, that's a state company like Petrotrin, and PDVSA, 49%. The reason that refinery is surviving is because they get low-cost concessionary crude from PDVSA. Our refinery, Dr. Rowley signed a gas deal with Venezuela. No, he didn't sign no low-cost crude from PDVSA. So in any event, the whole model in Petrojam is different to ours. Added to which, it is what is called a hydro-skimming refinery, which means there's no cat cracking for those of you who are in the refinery business. So that only 30 to 40% of their throughput comes out as distillates, which is gasoline, diesel, and aviation fuel. And a humongous 60 to 70% comes out as heavies, or fuel oil, and other low-value products. So, gosh, Kamala, if any model you want to use, don't use Jamaica, please. Okay? So you are devoid of ideas, speak to your expert, and come with something better. We sought expert advice. We have expertise advising this government. We have some level of expertise in the cabinet itself. And ladies and gentlemen, I think we have taken the right decision on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So tonight, in closing, I call on the national community, as I did last week Sunday, to treat this matter with maturity, with pragmatism, and with a significant level of patriotism. We're all in this ship together. Trinidad is a small island. Trinidad and Tobago are small islands. Barely over 1.3 million people. We have our own vested interests at times, but as a nation we have to pull together. This has been a significant national cancer on the economy, and we could have not survived as an economy if we didn't get the cancer out. The cancer has some fallouts with it, and we will manage it with kid gloves and with a loving heart. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much, and great is the PNM.